began this column and podcast about a year ago, I was very committed to sharing my fucked up thoughts with the world. I was willing to crack myself open in the hopes of others using these words to begin the process of cracking themselves wide open as well. Every word I have expressed was therapeutic. I was able to give voice to the mess my mind created, which ultimately helped me to see things even more clearly and continue to encourage the cleanup of all the mess inside of my mind. Back in 2016, I graduated with an advanced diploma of nutritional medicine. It took me 7 very long years to get to that point. I had 2 children in that time. Our son was born sleeping and our daughter was born with a smile on her face. 2 very different moments in time that paused my studies for separate reasons. And of course, I've spoken about them more in previous episodes of the Shut the Fuck Up podcast. Whatever may have been going on, there has always been this strong determination to make my way to where I am today. Not only how I feel on an emotional and physiological level, but giving birth figuratively to this dream and desire I was only faintly aware of. Love, body, woman. And after I graduated, I just knew I was not meant to work for anyone else. Yes, I still had a day job to bring in some money, but I knew without a doubt that I must find a way to do this thing that I wasn't fully aware of. It was just like this little tappity tap 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 in my senses, as if my future was letting me know it was there waiting for me. An almost silent wake-up call to change direction. Thoughts and ideas began to appear and I followed them, but I also followed others, which was to my disadvantage. I endeavored to follow my knowing as it took me down various paths that felt right at the time, but were not really where I was meant to stay. I am now home. I am comfortable here. It feels warm and cozy. It's bright and beautiful. And this podcast and the column have become such a significant part of my life, of her life. I have thoroughly enjoyed writing out my fucked up thoughts every 2 weeks and then recording it for others to witness, which is a strange proposition on many accounts because our world is now full of people's messy minds. Their thoughts, ideas, suggestions, advice, experiences, pain, joy, and everything else that encompasses who they are. It's noisy, it's brimming, and it's eventful, but it's also wonderful that we get to shine a light on so many parts of ourselves that others don't feel quite so alone. But it's also wonderful because we get to shine a light on so many different parts of ourselves so that others don't feel quite so alone or feel as though they are the only one who is ridiculously fucked up. We're all fucked up in one way or another. And it's a wonderful time to embrace all of those parts of ourselves. The fucked up parts, the kind parts, the loving parts, the weird parts, the different parts and the unique parts. Never has there been a better time to be who you are in all of your fucked upness. So in doing this podcast and writing the column, I have felt free, alive, able, expressive, all things that I was never allowing myself to feel. All things I could not see myself being or doing. They were all things that I continually longed to be. It has been a blast. I have thoroughly enjoyed all of it. But yet, it still felt as though it wasn't quite right. That there was something missing, maybe? I could just never quite put my finger on it. And I often wondered if I was expressing myself to my full potential. If I was creating this content to its full potential. I couldn't quite grab a hold of what that feeling was trying to tell me. I now know. I believed, honestly, that I would be doing this column and podcast for a long time to come. I was committed. I was excited about where it was going to go and what may come of it. I've had people listening to each episode, and that was and is absolutely thrilling that people are listening to the words I have expressed for them. And I thank you for that. I really, really do truly thank you for that. And it's become no secret that I am quite spiritual, that I listen to my loving voice for guidance, as well as my other guides who are with me in spirit. And one of my spiritual guides let me know a while ago now that his name is John. And yes, he's quite chuffed that I'm mentioning him for the first time. And there is another guide who I haven't quite got her name yet. It hasn't been revealed to me yet. But my point is, and I do have one, they have lovingly told me that it is time to wrap up the Shut the Fuck Up podcast and the column, and that there is another show in the works which is going to be very different to this one, and they are gently nudging me to go big, bigger and biggest, and it's freaking scary, and I have my doubts about my ability to pull it off, but I trust that they trust me. So off I go on another adventure. So the Love Body Woman show is going to be released next year. It'll be at the end of January. I just got to get my butt into gear, which I am. I absolutely am. And just be that woman that I know I can be. And that I am most of the time, except when my inner teenager decides to just throw a complete hissy fit and pretends that we are inadequate and incompetent. So we must not do this thing that we really, 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 really want to do because of all of the ridiculous reasons she and my shitty voice Saskia come up with. Oh, and this perimenopause, of course, has just decided to kick up a gear, but I'm working on it and I'm feeling much better. And some days I feel tired and weak, emotional and mentally fucked up again for one reason or another. And I often think it's just me going back to my old ways, but thankfully it's not that. Sometimes it's just my perimenopause and just life. It sometimes gets on top of you. But that's just another mental mountain that I must conquer, and I bloody well am going to reach the peak as this strong and empowered woman that I know myself to be and that I am being, who follows her knowing to help her erase those physical and mental challenges. And I'm definitely going to be sharing all of that on the new show. I have lived in that world for too long. I've lived that way for too long. I don't do that anymore. I don't allow parts of myself to control the narrative. And I certainly don't allow them to control the guidance I have been given for a reason. This isn't the end. This is simply another beginning, an exciting one, although very terrifying at the same time, but definitely way more exciting. And I can't believe that I'm actually doing this. The quiet and reserved teenager that I once was, she's in shock. She's a bit mortified as well, and she's also in awe of the woman that we have become. Who knew that we would grow up to be this kind of woman? A woman who loves to share her thoughts, a woman who writes for a living, a woman who actually wants people to see who she is. Not just the woman on the outside, but the woman on the inside as well. So, if you would like to share who you are on the inside, then I would love to have you on the Love Body Woman show. On the show, I am going to be discussing all sorts of things relating to our minds, bodies, and spirit, our emotions, love, and all that life entails. So if you would like to be on the show, then please email me. It's going to be in the show notes, the email address, and just share a story or two that you'd be happy to talk about. Because this next year is going to be fucking amazing. I have so many wonderful things planned, and I have been doing so many great things already. My book, My Food Addiction and Me, has been released. You can get your copy via the link in the show notes. And I will continue to follow the guidance my guides are guiding me to. Because otherwise my mind would convince me that I have not changed at all. that I'm still the same shitty person that I always was. And what do I say when that happens? Of course, shut the fuck up, because it's not true and it never was. So I thank you so much with all of my heart for listening to this podcast, because it really has been a pleasure creating it for you and for me. So until we meet again on the Love Body Woman show, keep on shouting, shut the fuck up.